Let's call this notice of public hearing for the 19th, not 19th, I tell my age. The 2020 tentative budget as submitted by the county executive. Let's open it up to the public. Or to the public on Facebook, or is that Facebook, and what else you got there?
Go to meeting,
Go to
there
meeting.
is no one online.
Does anyone wish to speak? Maybe about 4 or 5 minutes. I think the sheriff's keeping them all outside.
No, sir.
Think we should wait a couple minutes for the sheriff. Need to go that way. Doesn't that usually come? One last chance, does anyone wish to speak?
No one from the public can.
Then we will adjourn the public hearing at 6:02, and I will turn this meeting over to the finance chair.
Have to wait, correct?
6:05, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, it was meant to be adjourned. And they were to the finance, probably. They're all in front of the debate tonight.
Okay.
No,
An hour and a half?
Thank you.
To do the whole time?
It's 6:05.
It's not bad.
All right, good evening, everybody, and I'd like to call the Budget Finance Committee meeting to order, remind it's committee of the whole. I suppose open the floor up for discussion. Before we get into our straw votes on the sheet, I have been informed prior to the meeting that we have some additional changes that will be presented to us. For us to take into consideration. my plan is to go through this sheet, and then we will go around. I know Legislator Kelly may have an amendment or two that he wants to put through, and anybody else who may also want to do that as well. So, without further ado, looking at our already compiled budget worksheet of legislative changes, I certainly will look to each of the legislators who have put these things up for some input on them and philosophy behind them. But, you know, I will try to frame each of them before turning it over to that legislator. And our first two line items here, the $10,000 transfer to road machinery fund, coming on page 5 from the treasurer's budget, and the public works coming from page 11 here out of telephone, are two offsetting entries. And they have been presented by Legislator Headwell. Legislator Headwell, would you like to give us more insight into your request for change?
What I did was I did talk to Eric after the meeting, and Eric came up with $25,000 worth of cuts within his budget so that we could put $25,000 in so he could purchase his other vehicle that he wanted, you know. So what he did is he found $25,000 in his budget, he made those cuts so that he could get $25,000 in his vehicle line. So that's what the majority of those are. So
Okay.
just, there's absolutely, what was taken out was put back in so he could get that other vehicle, so he could stay on track with his plan of replacing vehicles.
Okay, so it's my understanding then, you know, as well, that these two sets of entries also tie into the ones on the bottom as well, but we'll get to those as well. So I'd like to take these first two, straw vote on them since they are offsetting entries. Unless there's any other discussion on them that anybody would like to bring up.
So on a total on budget, there's no net change on total budget, just changing it from one.
Yes, some shifting, yes, it's like to tell. All right, so, clerk of the legislature, Cheryl, we're gonna be voting on, the first two lines here. All right, so, fire away.
Do we want to just go around the room one?
Yeah, start with the legislator one.
Legislator Kelly,
Yes.
Legislator Sweet,
Pass.
Legislator Thayer,
Yes.
Legislator Headwell,
Yes.
Legislator Wilson,
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis,
Yes.
Chairman Isabel,
Yes.
Legislator Pep,
Yes,
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Okay, that one's passed.
okay, thank you. All right, our next proposed change is to the data processing budget found on page 13. Just a straight reduction of expense here of $12,500 for overtime pay, no offsetting entry on this sheet. Legislator Headwell is the sponsor. Legislator Headwell?
I just think that the line item of $15,000 is out of line. I think that if he needs someone to come in on a Saturday to work on Saturdays, he needs to do something different within his schedule. I mean, all the other departments are doing different things to help us out, and that doesn't seem like that was happening here. And we just got a resolution this month to add more money to overtime for the data processing again. And I just think that he needs to sit down with his employees. If he needs someone to work every Saturday, then maybe their day off should be on a Monday. Maybe, you know, but they need to do some flex scheduling, or do, if they work so many hours, they take so many hours off the following week, and do something different. But I just think that we need to cut down on the overtime a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this line item from any other legislator?
Legislator Kelly,
Yes.
Legislator Sweet,
Yes.
Legislator Thayer,
Yeah.
Legislator Headwell,
Yes.
Legislator Wilson,
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis,
Yes.
Chairman Isabel,
Yes.
Legislator Pat,
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
all. Our next line item is a standalone line item as well. We got into detail about this the last week when speaking with the sheriff about his budget. No offsetting entries to this as well, just a straight increase in the jail other government line item here of $50,000 based on past performance and the recent history of this sheriff being integrally involved in bringing in federal prisoners, and certainly appears to be something that, you know, can be easily attained. Yes, sir?
No, I'm sorry, I was answering a question.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can we just vote on all of those as one? Because isn't that to offset the new vehicle that?
no, it isn't,
It's not.
no,
Okay.
no,
Other lines.
yeah. I thought so too, Legislator Kelly, when I first looked at this printout the other day. Legislator Duchessis, any further input you'd like to lend to this, since you are the sponsor?
Yes, I would like to address my remarks to all 5 of these items at once here, because they were put forth by the sheriff, who I think has, in his short tenure, demonstrated a very high degree of professionalism, not just in the operations of the department, but in budget as well. In particular, I'm referring to the increased revenue that he is providing. And from my vantage point, and I sent out the legislators some of the proceedings of my last interview with the sheriff, not this sheriff, but the previous sheriff, regarding revenues at the jail. And I think that if you've seen that, then the difference in approach and attitude is self-evident here. It doesn't need any enhancement by me, except that I would thank the sheriff for his efforts. So with this increased revenue and the revenue, in fact, that is coming in from even the anticipated line item to begin with, it's quite remarkable, and it puts the sheriff in good standing in my viewpoint. With respect to my willingness to accept the changes that he's recommended. And so I think that needs to be recognized on that level. And I would urge my colleagues to support all of the changes put forth by the sheriff under my name.
Thank you, Legislator Duchessis. And so consequently, since you've made that move, which thank you very much, I think since we're on the topic of the sheriff and the jail, I'd like to just discuss the next 4 line items as well, and make one straw vote on these 5 separate entries to the sheriff and jail. You can see that those 3 lines there, 5,000, 3,500, 3,500, are offset by the 12,000 of the overtime pay, and those 4 lines are interrelated. So any further discussion on those as well, in addition to the enhancement of the line item for federal prisoners? Legislator Patel.
John, could you explain the motor vehicle equipment, what you're looking to do there with the 3,500?
Sure.
Yes, sir. So that 3,500 is to actually put enough money in the line item in 2021 to buy a vehicle and upfit. So the money that's currently in the budget is shy for the cost of upfitting a vehicle. Upfitting is the cage, the radio striping, lights, all that stuff. So that's just to make the line whole so that we could purchase the one vehicle in 21.
So we talked about increasing 2 vehicles in 2020 with your revenue, but still, so getting a 3rd vehicle.
That's what I did based on the conversation from the meeting, yes.
Okay.
In 21, Legislator.
Very good, thank you.
All right, any further discussion on these babies? All right, so we will now be straw voting on those 5 line items that we just discussed.
Legislator Kelly.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Legislator Thayer. Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Chairman Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Pep.
Yes.
Legislator Pertel.
Yes.
Pass.
All right, thank you, Paul. And actually, the next 1 to 5 lines are also all interrelated, so we can look to vote on them collectively as well. Essentially, the difference between the motor vehicle equipment going up 25,000 and the interfund transfer creates a $15,000 situation that is offset by the 3 $5,000 entries and the reduction in those particular expense categories at 5,000 apiece. So they are all interrelated as well. Legislator Headwell, any other comment? Legislator Sweet.
I think probably a question for Sean. Seems like the number has gone up and down in this line for the last 2 or 3 years. In 2009, it was 75,000. The adopted budget last year was 326,000. The request of the department was 277,000, and the exec cut it back to 176.
What's that, the actual transfer to?
The 5031, I'm sorry, the 5031 interfund transfers.
What those entries are entries that are required, the funding that's required from the general fund to balance the road machinery fund.
Okay.
So depending on what his revenues are, what the use of fund balance is for the DM fund, that will go up and down based on, but the interfund money is just the balancing item to balance that together.
Gotcha. All right, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Legislator Sweet. Any other dialogue or discussion on these entries?
Legislator Kelly.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes?
Legislator Thayer.
Yes.
Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Chairman Isabel. Legislator Pep.
Yes.
Legislator Pertel.
Yes.
Thank you all. All right, at this point in time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Legislator Kelly to bring up his proposed changes to the budget and direct us within our budget books to where we can
Page 9.
follow along with you, sir. All right? And we're gonna do these on the fly, Legislator Kelly. I mean, we'll do them all collectively once we get them recorded on the sheet, but feel free to keep rolling here.
Do you want me to go department by department, or?
Yeah, well, first of all, may I ask you, how many do you have?
2, 3,
Okay.
3.
3? Okay. Yeah, you know what, we'll vote on them one at a time. How about that?
So this is personnel. I spoke with the personnel director for a bit, and I'll be meeting with them again next week, referencing 900.00.8850, the health insurance fund of the A fund. Way at the bottom.
Got it, yep.
I propose a reduction of 100,000.
From the 5.4 to 5.3?
No, it's at 5.250.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so to 5150.
Mhm.
All right, and your rationale, behind that?
Looking at a 4-year progression of September to September to September,
Mhm.
we average about 4.5. But then if you actually, 3.2. But if you actually look at actuals, we're at 4.5. And if we project this year's out according to September divided out by 12, we end up at 4.8. So,
Okay.
and I think in talking with the personnel director, It still leaves us a little bit of room to be able to, and then with the cost-saving measures of telehealth and changing prescription companies and stuff, there should be a cushion within the insurance fund to be able to handle this.
Excellent, okay. Any further discussion on this line item being recommended by Legislator Kelly? Seems to make sense. Hearing none?
Go through.
Yes, please.
Legislator Kelly.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Legislator Thayer.
Yes.
Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Chairman Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patrick.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Next page is 11. I'm going back to DPW and the telephone line.
Okay, down towards the bottom,
Yep.
buildings and grounds.
Yep.
All right,
Telephone has been increasing at about a 4% rate. So looking year over year, I think that's a major increase that we don't need, so I am proposing we decrease it by another 5,000 on top of the 10,000 already straw voted on. So in 2018, they budgeted 114,000. We amended the budget back down to 109,000. But that year, we spent 91,000. So there's enough cushion, I believe, according to the 4% increase year over year, to still provide them enough room to pay the funds.
okay. Thank you, sir. Any other discussion on this line item and recommendation by Legislator Kelly?
So the recommendation would be changing from 111,000
No.
down.
No, we already voted on 101, so I'm taking it down to 96.
96.
Not canceling out the first one.
Legislator Kelly.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Legislator Thayer.
Yes.
Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Chairman Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patrick.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
All right, and Legislator Kelly, what
no.
page is the Fonda Fair on? No. No.
I never put that resolution up.
Only kidding.
If you wanna do it, no, Mike, I'll do it.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
It's page 12, it's also DPW.
Mm-hmm.
It is, 1620.00.4422, top line on that page.
Yes, sir.
Looking at that, year over year, and it didn't seem we had an increase in those, contracts, according to what we were presented. I'm proposing a $15,000 cut to that. Actual year over year from 19 through 16 is about 83,000. As of September, the last 4 years, we're at 71,000, so I think just reducing that a bit still provides him enough coverage to offset that.
Can I ask, did you discuss this with him, and only from the standpoint of your rationale and analysis makes perfect sense, is there anything new he may be introducing?
Well,
to that?
in the backup, it was all rounded to the nearest $1,000, which struck me as odd.
Okay,
And it seemed everything in the budget was rounded to the nearest 1,000. And I don't like whole numbers, but I know that there are other things with the new garage, the new building and such.
What this is it's not all contracts, what this is this covers all his, repairs and projects that he does to buildings throughout the year.
okay.
This
All right, so it's
is-
not,
this is-
okay, all
This isn't paid for, this doesn't cover every contract that he has, this is more or less for like building supplies and that type of stuff for, projects that he does for, in the county buildings.
Why do we recognize it as in a account monitored equipment rental lease then?
It's,
Just
that's the way it's been,
Okay.
So we amended it back to 97 this year.
Did we already?
It was, according, yeah. It was adopted at 100, and it was amended back to 97
When
in
was that?
2020. Not last year,
Oh,
but this year's,
I'm sorry, okay.
So in 2018, the budget was 107,000. We spent 84,000. And in 19, we originally was budgeted at 145,000. We decreased it to 121.8 thousand, and we spent 80,000.
Okay.
So it just seems
Yeah.
that's a,
No, makes perfect sense, Legislator Kelly. It doesn't look like we're spending nearly that much in the last several years running, so
So what's the proposed reduction?
15,000.
down to 85,
Yes.
okay. Any other discussion, Legislator Thayer?
I'm somewhat hesitant in that he's already spent 82,000 this year out of that line. With 3 months left to go, this is reporting as of the end of September. So do we have something lurking in the remainder of the year? Is he gonna cross over? Is he taking on something new that's causing him to spend money?
Well, I believe they've been working on things, projects and stuff, since they weren't able to get to the roads when we were holding on to checks. It's just discussion.
Yeah. He's already at 84% of his appropriation.
It just seems that's the line that the commissioner goes to reduce when we ask him to stay within his budget.
And has
That's
this
the
line
fluff
been-
cap, the fluff, okay.
Well, if it's high when we adopt and we
Right.
reduce it mid-year,
Mhm.
I wanna ask John.
Legislator Thayer, are you, Legislator Patel would like to interject, are you okay?
I'm fine for the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sean, so that wouldn't be track home rental,
Martin?
nothing like that, what line would that be?
The track hall right now, probably out of the road shear.
Is that when he has to spend money
His
again?
equipment is,
I'm fine with
his
that.
road equipment is kept, so any equipment rental.
I didn't want to get greedy.
is out of the DM.
No, so this is the one that we
this-
always hit,
because this
when
is
he
in the
goes, I need
general fund
something, and we
building
say, get it
budget.
from your fund.
Well, we did
This
this one.
covers projects.
We've got too many conversations
He
going.
builds a wall or puts a new door in the county buildings, or he puts new carpeting down for an office, that's what this line covers.
So, since that covers things like general repairs, if you will.
I would say the majority of this line is
There's more to this.
building repairs.
Okay, so if we looked at it as building repairs, things like carpet doors, things like that, that there's certainly ways that you could have more control on that budget based on, it's not necessarily a mission critical item at that point throughout the year.
I'll change my proposal. Decrease to 3,000.
I'm cool with the 15,000, I'm just saying.
No, I got another line item, we'll just take it from.
We'll do both.
So you're decreasing to 97,000?
Yes.
That's.
All right, so the proposal on the floor right now is to change that particular line item from 100,000 to $97,000.
Legislator Kelly,
Yes.
Legislator Sweet,
Are you voting in three?
Yeah, just a second. I think we're in a huge hurry here. So we're at 97
Yes, sir.
to what we amended it to this year? Yeah,
From 100 to 97.
yeah, yes.
Legislator Thayer.
Yes.
Legislator Hedwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Chairman Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Papp.
Yes.
Legislator
Yes.
Patel.
All right, Legislator Kelly, let's, go to the next line item that you
It's
just
right below
discovered.
it.
You
It's
can-
right below it. No,
trim.
I had it on there, I didn't want to push it.
Okay.
So that's
Uh,
maintenance agreements.
Yes. It seems that that isn't something that gets expended very often. As of this year,
71%.
we're at 70%.
Dollar amount, John?
155,
There's 60
947.
64,000 still left.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll have to ask that same question I asked before. Now, that does sound like it's tied to existing.
These are the various contracts he has. I don't know, I don't have the backup one page, but the backup one page he should have listed all his contracts that are included in this line.
So
Legislator Patel.
I guess my question is, if they're contracts, then we should be able to forecast what they are.
Yes.
And there should be a number that's solid, not a number that's a moving target. So what can we do to identify a better number on that before we?
You can look at the actuals from last year and the year before.
Unless something new has been added.
No,
You know,
and I
that's my only
understand.
question.
And and this goes back to the reason we asked for budget backup instead of rounding to the whole 1,000.
Mhm.
So in 2018, where you have an actual of 180, we'll call it 184,000, there was 199.2 thousand budgeted.
Okay.
So we didn't spend
Okay.
about 10,000 there.
And the next year.
And then in 19, we budgeted 220,000. 220,000.
220, yep.
And we only spent 169,000.
Mhm.
You're rounding up, legislator.
Well, I understand that, I'm trying to, instead of reading and reading and reading.
So I think that Eric did come back and tell us that there was some new contracts this year for, I think, like generator, maintenance and things like that, if my memory serves correctly. So I can see that there might be a modest increase, but I also think there might be some room in that line to make some
A
adjustments.
little bit downward adjustment. Yeah, I just don't wanna, I mean, I guess in some respects that's one of the disadvantages to this happening extemporaneously this evening, where perhaps unless you were able to have a dialogue meeting, just to ensure that there's nothing new there that we need to know needs to be covered by that, but you're right on your, as far as your history is concerned, it doesn't appear to get close to whatever's been adopted the last 3 years.
And our average of the 4 years actual spent is 171,000.
So what are you proposing?
Yeah, well, so give us a number, Legislator Kelly.
12,000.
12,000.
12? All right, there's your 15, right? All right, any further discussion on that line item?
Legislator Kelly.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes?
Legislator Thayer.
Yes.
Legislator Hedwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Chairman Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Papp.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
All right, Legislator Kelly, anything more on that agenda of yours?
I never put the fare up.
No, I was only kidding.
No, I'm done.
All right, Legislator Patel, I see some handwriting on one of these budget sheets. Do you have anything you want to throw out for the floor here, or no?
Most of the things I put down are, we've already covered. The only thing that I think we have a little bit of wiggle room on is on page 49. DM 2665, sale of equipment, there's a 0 there. And I would think that we had some anticipated equipment auctions and things like that this year. So I'd like to increase that to $7,500 in revenue.
Can you please just point out the line item again, sir?
I'd have to go to page 40.
2665.
2665.
Chairman Pop, Sean needs to explain that one.
I just wanna find the line item, I don't see it.
It's
the
at
fourth
the
one on
top,
top.
page 49,
Oh, I was looking down,
revenues.
okay. Okay, John?
Just for purposes of balancing the budget, by decreasing that line, you also have to decrease the revenue, the 5031, and in turn decrease the transfer to the road machinery fund in the general fund.
I want to increase the revenue.
You're increasing you're decreasing an expense. Oh.
No, the.
No, we're
Okay.
increasing
You're
revenue.
increasing the revenue in DM, you're gonna reduce the 5031 revenue in the DM and reduce the
So it's a
transfer.
wash. Pretty much
You're
a wash.
gonna affect three lines, it's just gonna be a straight wash.
All right,
Well,
I'll take
In
that
essence,
back.
you're saving $7,500 in the general fund.
Yeah, when you decrease that revenue line, you're gonna decrease the revenue line of the interfund transfer.
And you're
And then
reducing the
The
expense in
expenditure,
the general.
yeah,
But I respectfully take that back.
you're doing what you want.
I respectfully take that back.
All right,
You want, we're making that change or we're
no,
not?
no, Legislator Patel has withdrawn his request. Anything else, Legislator
Take it
Patel?
over. No, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Legislator Headwell?
I would like to increase the contribution to the fund affairs by 15,000. So if you could direct me to that line item.
It's in the youth bureau budget,
The outreach programs and the youth
page
budget.
30.
Okay,
It would be 7310004559 outreach programs.
page 31.
It's currently budget, the executive budget is 6,000.
What number is
It's
that?
on
second to last on
30,
page
yeah, second to
31.
last.
And you'd like to increase it back up to 21, Legislator Patel?
Legislator.
Or I mean Legislator, geez, sorry. Headwell?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Hold on, from 6,000 to 21.
all right. Any further discussion on that line item?
Legislator Kelly,
I abstain.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Legislator Thayer,
Yes.
Legislator Headwell,
Yes.
Legislator Wilson,
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis,
Yes.
Chairman Isabel,
Yes.
Legislator Papp,
Yes,
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
all right, thank you. Any other line item changes anybody would like to bring forth, since we're doing this now?
Do we have a net of that yet?
Sean, are we gonna be able to put that up on the screen?
Mike?
I can't put it on the screen, I have it on my screen.
Legislator Fair?
He can answer your question first.
Okay.
Right now, you're at a total real property tax levy of 31,125,403, which is, for your references, I guess, it's an increase in the levy of 394,288. That leaves us roughly $168,474 under the tax cap.
I think we're good where we are.
And that represents a 1.28% increase, but we have to add 36,000 in limited taxes, so we're looking at.
All right. Legislator Fair?
Just a question of Sean on the refuse and garbage lines that were bumped up to 5 million respectively within revenue and appropriation. Do these numbers reflect the increased tipping fee that we're gonna be realizing at the landfills? On
No.
the appropriation side?
No, what we are going to have to do is, our contract for recycling ends, I believe, in March. We used to our last contract, we were paid for recycling. Now we're gonna required to pay for recycling. And like I said, we haven't got a formal quote yet, but we're potentially looking at, I believe, right around, it's going to be close to $75 to $100 per ton to dispose of recycling.
Right.
And that's why it, and our rough estimate for that 3/4 of the year is probably about $500,000.
Well, we
Expense
just-
and offsetting revenue we're gonna be forced to charge.
Well, that, and you just approved a contract to dump at Seneca Meadows
Correct.
with an increase in the tipping fee there, it's gonna cost us more there, and my question is $5 million gonna cover that? You've spent, last year, 2019, $4,446,000 on approximately 55,000 tons of waste. But it looks like annually, we have been going up between 3,000 and 5,000 tons a year. So with that in mind, we're potentially looking at 58 to 60,000 tons going through the system next year, and I don't believe your numbers are gonna work.
With the solid waste, that's something the executive is going to have to consider, is a tipping fee increase. Because historically, in the numbers, we try to make that as a break-even proposition, the whole solid waste operation for the county.
Well, I wish we would stop doing that, because we need to start creating some kind of reserve for when this equipment needs to be replaced. You start buying backhoes that cost $200,000 a pop. It'd be kind of nice if we had a reserve set aside, but.
Well, the arrangement we have now is, you know, the equipment that we acquired through the disposition, we do get a lease payment from the operator that leases our equipment, and they use it at
And is that
the
reflected,
transfer station.
is that
But
reflected in
case
the revenue?
of- What's that?
Is that reflected in the revenue line?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But, in the case of, with that, the arrangement we have is, if that equipment is no longer usable for them, they have to supply their own equipment.
Okay.
I believe the only time we would be purchasing new equipment for the solid waste operation is if the legislature took the position to do it as a county operation. Because I don't believe we should be purchasing new equipment for a contractor to use.
Or if you went with another contractor, you might
Right.
potentially be looking at it as well. All right.
That's something that the executive and possible legislature would, if you decided to go another direction with another operator, the equipment would have to be negotiated in that.
Right.
But
Well,
to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be purchasing new equipment for an outside vendor to use in their operation.
Well, if you're comfortable with your numbers, I'm not gonna make waves, but I just don't think it works in my mind. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Thayer. Legislator Kelly?
So, the rental of that equipment at the transfer stations is included in that line? Or is it in another line throughout the budget?
It's included in, let me get to
It's in another line.
it's in a revenue line in my direct,
Oh, and you're in the treasurer's office.
2130?
correct. It would be part of that overall solid waste revenue. And that they pay that on a monthly basis.
Okay.
All right, all set, Legislator Kelly? Okay. Two more orders of business. One, you all have the report to the clerk of the board regarding the budget, a copy of that letter in front of you. Cheryl, I do see a small typo in it. We need a comma in the 125 instead of a period. But that said, you know, this is the letter that we give to the clerk once we've reviewed the budget, made our changes, that we reviewed it. We state what it's at, 120.1 million, the levy increase, we came in under the cap, and how much the general fund, fund balance is being used versus the previous year. So, we don't need a resolution for that, do we?
No, it's pursuant to the charter.
Okay. And also, just to review with you all, we're winding down on our budget season. Obviously, next week we got a full board meeting. But Wednesday, November 4th, the day after Election Day, is our next public hearing. So we have to do that by November the 5th. And we'll remind you of that, I guess, next Tuesday. But the following Wednesday, we have to come in here for a public hearing. And then we'll be well on our way.
And a special meeting.
Yeah. Right. Right. So, Legislator Duchessis?
It's calling your attention.
Oh,
Legislator Kelly?
are we allowed to discuss any financial matters at this committee, or is it strictly the budget?
We have others.
We're here.
We do have other.
Okay. I was wondering if, now that we have a hotel and, with the COVID and bed and breakfasts being shut down and such, could we get, our auditor to assemble some documents and stuff to kind of forecast, the amount of revenue that the occupancy tax is going to?
The bed tax?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. We can do that.
I just don't want to continually keep using that fund and depleting it.
What do we add on it? You got it in front of you. What are the budget figures? How much?
Projected at the end of this year is about 52,000. But at the beginning of the year, it was projected at about 67. And it never really falls completely in there, but
Okay.
we just continually keep dinging it. And I'm not saying we need to get away from advertising tourism, I just would like to.
Sure. Do you want a forecast for 2021?
Yes, please.
Okay. And I guess thinking out loud about that, what would we base it on?
Well, maybe he could do some historical data and such. I mean, we collect bed tax, is that correct, Sean?
Is the
So-
impetus behind your request for that COVID's impact on our bed tax, and how are we to predict what that would be in the future year, knowing?
Well, maybe get
uncertainty?
a real number pre-COVID and maybe how COVID has impacted thus
This year.
far compared to the
Okay.
previous years.
History versus this year for
Yeah.
good projection for next year.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, please.
all right, sounds good. Any other items anybody would like to discuss? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Legislator Kelly, Legislator Hadley. Thank you.